Today's episode is brought to you by the folks over at SeatGeek, the best and easiest to use ticket platform out there. They take the confusion out of buying tickets using a 0 to 10 scoring system and a green is good, red is bad color rating system so you and your loved ones get the best deal possible. So whether it's going to see our beloved Redlegs at Great American Ballpark, the Bengals over at Paycor, FC Cincinnati, one of the area college teams, or pretty much anything in between, use promo code Riverfront at checkout and receive $20 off your first order. Click the link in the show notes to download the app and get started. That's Riverfront, one word, for $20 off.
What's up, guys? I'm Ryan Roberts. Welcome into tonight's At Large Bid Bearcats podcast, brought to you as always by Riverfront U. Tonight, I'm joined by Duncanville High School point guard Chloe Mann. Chloe is a 4-star guard that plays for Duncanville as well as Sky Diggs Elite and Player First AAU programs. Chloe, welcome into the show.
Hi, how you doing?
Good. So we were talking about it a little bit. You spent the weekend in Austin. What was that trip like for you and your team?
It was real fun. It was the first trip that we had together as a team, staying in a hotel and all that. It was a real good experience. Being my year as a senior, I had to step up and take care of some of those senior duties. So it was really cool.
So you committed and signed with Cincinnati last week. You took your official visit October 26th. Let's just talk a little bit about and recap your official visits. How did that go, and what were some of your favorite parts of that visit?
It was a real good experience. They took care of me out there. Some of my favorite parts would probably be hanging around with the girls. The girls are real cool. They came to my photo shoot. They turned me up a little bit. I'm usually a more laid-back person, but they had me in the gym dancing and stuff, so that was real fun to be around. And I could love the coaches, just being around them for so long. Just really feel like family.
So I got to be honest with you. I saw your commitment video, and that's by far one of the best commitment videos I've seen. It had me hype about Chloe Mann becoming a Bearcat.
Oh, yeah, they put it together themselves. I was going to make me a video. My dad had everything planned out, but they sent that one, and they kind of just changed around everything. We was going to put it out.
Well, it was very well done, and I know it had a lot of Bearcat fans fired up about you joining the family. So you chose Cincinnati over multiple offers, but your final three consisted of Cincinnati, Central Florida, and Seton Hall. What was it about the Bearcats that stood out to you?
Just the relationship that I had with Coach Trina, Coach Jump, and all of them, really, because they came from Memphis. They recruited me over in Memphis. And then for them to switch schools and get on a bigger platform, they still recruited me and still believe in me that I could come here and really show what I could do. It really made it feel like they really believe in me.
So you obviously heard a lot of different recruiting pitches throughout this recruiting process. What were you personally looking for in a program when you ultimately made your decision for the next level?
Just some, of course, people that I could trust, because I'm going to be around these people for hopefully the next 4 years. So just being able to know that I'm with somebody that's going to take care of me, knowing that I'm away from my family, that I'll have another family to be around, and also get me to the next level, like basketball wise.
You mentioned your relationship with this staff. They were the first ones to offer you while they were at Memphis and when you were a sophomore. Did that add any extra meaning to them also recruiting you at Cincinnati?
Oh yeah, for sure. Just because guys, like, they could have went to a higher level of competition and just forgot about me, but no, they stayed with the relationship. They kept the connection and everything like that, and still ended up recruiting me.
So you're described by multiple scouts as a player who, can finish at the rim, use your speed and athleticism at both ends of the floor. What has the message from this staff been as far as how you fit into their system?
They want me to come in and do the same thing that I've been doing, really. Use my athleticism, be able to get the rebound on defense and push the ball up the court on offense. It's really the same thing, really, and that's really what I was looking for.
Coach Merriweather was obviously a 4-year letterman at Cincinnati. Did that have any extra meaning to you, knowing how genuine and authentic the message was from her and her staff when they were describing how special of a place Cincinnati was?
Oh, of course. Just because she was there, so she knows how it feels to be a Bearcat. She knows how the fans are, how the community is, and for her to want to bring me into that really feels special.
So both of your parents are former D1 athletes. Your dad played football at Kansas State. Mom ran track at Kansas State. How much were they able to help you throughout this recruiting process?
They were able to help me a lot because I know some kids may not have that. Like that was really that's the perfect setup, really. Just being able to have them going through that whole process and everything, and for them to also be in the Big 12, it kind of just went hand in hand, being able to help me.
So you brought up the Big 12. Cincinnati's going through a transition from the American to the Big 12, and they also recently added the Jordan brand to their apparel deal. How much did the Big 12 and the switch to Jordan play into your decision to become a Bearcat?
I don't really think it played that much into my decision, really. I would, yeah, I wouldn't say it really played that much for my decision, just because I already knew, like, if it was any other school, just be able to have Coach Trina, Coach Jump, and all them, just being able to have them as my coaches, I really think that that's really what made my decision.
So I noticed, I got to ask this, I noticed Darren Sproles mentioned you on Instagram. What's the connection there? Did he play with your dad at K-State?
He did. That's actually he's my uncle.
Uncle, yeah.
Yes, yeah, that's Uncle Sproles. He been
So
supporting me through everything that I've been through.
is it kind of surreal, seeing all of the, Skylar Diggins is commenting on your Instagram post, Aaron Sproles. Is it kind of surreal knowing you have so many people around you that care about what you do at the next level?
Yeah, for the most part, because I see there are a few people that might hate or anything like that, but
Mhm.
just being able to know that I have a very large group of people that support me is really bigger than any type of hate that I'll ever get.
So you come from a high level high school program, Duncanville. You guys were rated number 11 nationally last year. You're top 20 this year. You also played for the only Puma sponsored AAU program with Sky Diggs Elite. How has playing at that level over the last couple of years helped develop your game?
It's really set me up and put a big target on my back, and it just makes me always have a chip on my shoulder knowing that I come from that type of background. Because anybody that plays Duncanville is gonna go at us hard, being one of the best teams in Texas. So I just feel like it's just it really puts you out there.
So you averaged 11 points, 6 assists, 5 rebounds, and 2 steals per game last season. You were named the MVP of the Sandra Meadows Classic, which is one of the most prestigious tournaments in Texas. What are some of the things you've worked on throughout this offseason to help you not only this season but also at the next level?
Um, Definitely getting stronger. 'Cause I'm not the strongest, but I can hold my ground. But just my strength handles. My shots be getting a lot better. Just being able to get stuff, just to sharpen some things up around the edges so I could be able to compete on the next level.
So you're listed as a point guard. Are you most comfortable with the ball in your hands, or are you able to play off the ball as well?
Definitely comfortable with the ball in my hands, but I could play off ball as well. Just being able to get the ball and push it in transition, kick it out, finish, like that's really where I'm most comfortable at. But not having the ball in my hands isn't a problem.
Are there any other players at the next level, whether it be WNBA or NBA, that you try to model your game after?
Definitely Sky. But she's a dog, offense or defense.
Yeah.
She has a great shot. Like she's the definition of a dog.
How exciting is it for you as a player to see how far the women's game has come over these last couple years, not just over these last couple of years, but over the last, I'd say, decade? You look at, Caitlin Clark, Haley Van Lith, all of these female athletes that are really expanding the exposure of the game. How exciting is that for you?
It's very
Angel
exciting.
Reese too. I'm sorry, I have to bring up Angel Reese too.
Oh yeah, it's very exciting just for them to get the women's game out there and basically set it up for the next generations that's coming. Like you can even see third graders doing crazy moves nowadays. Like the women's game is really evolving.
So what are you looking forward to the most when you get on to Cincinnati's campus?
Mm, Probably just my first game day as a freshman coming in. Just being able to be around that atmosphere, being in the arena. I've seen the arena is huge. I would just love to be on that court.
What are your thoughts on the new locker room?
I haven't seen it in person when it was built, but they walked me through it. They showed me the blueprint, and I've seen videos. I can't wait to
Yeah.
see it in real life. I can't wait to see that big old locker. I literally stand inside of it. Like that's how big it is. I just can't wait to get in there. Really.
So I gotta let's get into some fun stuff about Chloe. Who are you on the court, and how would you describe yourself off the court?
Me on the court and off the court are two completely different people. Me on the court, I'll be in your face, yelling, clapping, all that, talking mess, all that. But off the court, I'm more laid back in my own lane, chilling.
Yeah. It's obviously a Sunday night. Did you watch any football today, or do you watch any other sports? Because I've noticed that a lot of high school athletes, like you said, kind of stay in their own lane. They really don't pay attention to the professional level for the most part because they're so busy with their own game.
Yeah, I didn't watch any. I didn't watch any football today. I'm not a big football person.
Yeah.
You would think that because of how big my dad is on football, that I would watch it all the time. I'm always around it. I'm not. Yeah, that's not. Yeah, that's not really my type of. That's not my thing.
Do you have any favorite professional teams or players?
The Warriors and Steph Curry. That's my team all day. I don't care what happened. That's me. 10
Yeah.
toes down.
Not a LeBron fan. No, all right. I can appreciate that. Did you have a chance to try Skyline or any of the Cincinnati staples while you were in town?
I didn't. I did get a pretzel though. It was good. Like it was a big old pretzel. It was soft at the football game.
Yeah.
I don't remember what place it was from because yeah, those were good.
What are your thoughts on the chili and spaghetti and cheese here in Cincinnati? Is that something you'll try?
I might. I'm not a picky person, so I'm really down to try anything.
Yeah. What's your favorite food? Let's get to know you a little bit.
I'm a big seafood person.
Okay.
I like steak and potatoes. Steak and potatoes are real good.
What about Texas barbecue? Is that something you like?
Oh yeah, ribs, brisket. I'm not big on potato salad, but most people love it down here. But I'm not big on it.
I'll be in DFW in a couple of weeks for the Big 12 championship. What's your favorite barbecue spot down there?
Favorite spot? I don't know. It's a lot. Spring Creek. It's around Fort Worth. You can never go wrong with that. There's a lot of hole in the walls you gotta find. They're really good.
That's what I've heard. There's I think Risky's. There's all of the like chains down there, and everyone says no. You got to get outside of the city and go to the mom and pop places. That's all. That's where all the good spots are.
That's really where it be at.
Yeah. What's let's talk about your music. What's your go-to game day music? What are you listening to pregame?
Right wave all day every day.
Right wave.
Oh yeah.
All right. I guess we should just finish it up with what do you feel like you need to do this senior season, and what are you looking to accomplish?
This season, of course, go to state, win state. That's the main goal. That's the main team goal, I would say. And getting us out there for real because we weren't able to show as much as we could. That was we wanted to last year.
Mm-hmm.
But this year we definitely got some stuff to prove. Me for myself, definitely got to get myself out there more. I would consider myself very underrated. So definitely showing people that I'm big time.
It's a little crazy to me that you consider yourself underrated. Like you have that dog mentality, obviously, but I've seen you rated as high as top 30 in the country. Just so people get an idea of how big of a impact you're able to come in and make with how good you are.
Yeah.
All right, Chloe. Well, we definitely appreciate you taking time out of your Sunday night to join us, and we look forward to following your senior year and can't wait for you to get on campus.
No problem.
I'm now joined by Keenan Cummings of WVSportsdotcom. Keenan, welcome into the show tonight.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Ryan.
Absolutely. Like we were talking a little bit off the air, I think the last time we talked was when Beetle Bolden was at West Virginia and when he was going through that recruiting process.
That dates us a little bit, doesn't it?
It does. It does. Absolutely. So let's talk a little football, man. West Virginia comes into this game 6-4, 4-3 in the Big 12. What have been your thoughts on the season so far?
Well, it's better than many people expected. When West Virginia came into the year, there was talk about this at Big 12 Media Days. They were picked 14th, and Neil Brown and this team took that personally. They thought they were better than that. Everybody within the program thought they were better than that. And for the most part, they've proved that. This was a team that I think had an over-under win total of 4.5. They've already hit that. So your expectations change throughout the season depending on how teams fare. But for a team picked 14th to be setting 6-4 right now, with a Cincinnati team that struggled at times and a Baylor team that struggled at times left on the schedule, there's a golden opportunity for West Virginia to take a step. But overall, I mean, it's hard. There have been chances for this to be even better, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Like they lost on a Hail Mary at Houston. They collapsed against Oklahoma State. Now, Oklahoma just kind of hit them in the mouth. Oklahoma played as well as they have all season, and West Virginia played as poor as they have. That happens sometimes when you got to make trips to Norman. It's not the first time West Virginia's been blown out there. So that's happened. But I think overall at 6-4 right now, you're feeling okay with what West Virginia's been able to do. But there is definitely that feeling that there is a little bit more meat on the bone that they kind of left.
How important do you think it was for Neil Brown to have this type of season? Do you think he was on the hot seat coming into the year at all?
Yeah, no question. I mean, depending on who you talk to. I mean, you talk to fans, Neil Brown's still on the hot seat in some degree. If you talk to people in the athletic department, they're obviously a little bit more reserved. You're not allowed to make knee-jerk decisions, but he's got a big buyout attached to him too, which makes things a little complicated. I'm not sure technically if he's really off of it yet at 6-4. Let's just say, if we want to play hypotheticals here, West Virginia gets blown out the next two games. I think that kind of erases the goodwill that you had built early in the season. So I think they need to close strong, but he's definitely in a better spot now than where he was, at the starting of the year.
Do you think being picked 14th in the league with knowing what they were returning, do you think that was justified, or was it just the unknown more than anything?
Yeah, I've talked to a lot of people about this, since it came out and really after and ever since. It's so hard anymore to know what your own team that you cover, what they have with all the turnover and everything that happens in the offseason now. Forget learning 13 other teams. So I think when a lot of people pick those media polls, I did not pick it this year, so I can't throw myself in that category, but I have before. So when you pick those media polls, a lot of times you go off what you know. And if you look at what what returned for this West Virginia team, yeah, I could see it. But they brought in a lot of players, young players develop. So I was always under the belief this was going to be a better football team than 14th. I firmly believe that. I think I picked West Virginia 6-6, 7-5 if they got some breaks. So we're right on that track right now, possibly even better than that. So, but it's hard. It's so hard to really sort that through to know what other teams have. I kind of go around every time West Virginia plays somebody now and talk to someone like this just to get some insight. Because in the past, you could read the media guide or you could, look at the roster and have an idea what to expect. Anymore, man. It's so nuts, the turnover and how different things are from year to year.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because Cincinnati, obviously new coaching staff, returned just one starter on offense. So there was some continuity on defense with their front seven and a couple guys in the back end of the defense. But you look at their offense and it's, their center Gavin Gerhardt's the only returning starter. Everyone else is either a transfer or making their first start of their careers. So definitely understand that transition that, West Virginia was going through as well. Speaking of the offense, obviously I think it starts with CJ Donaldson. Any updates on him as far as what you've seen from this past game?
Right now, I would consider him questionable for the game. He got injured against Oklahoma. They want to run him. They want to use their offensive line. I think that CJ is always kind of going to get the credit, but the offensive line is really the engine of this team. They're a very veteran group. They came under the end of this year with like 135 starts combined. There were a lot of returning players, and they've played well. Now, last week against Oklahoma was the first time all year, and they played Penn State and a bunch of other teams in the Big 12, that they got bullied a little bit. They'd never been really beat up front. They'd had, less than stellar games, but they'd not really been beat the way they were against Oklahoma. So I think that they'll come out kind of refocused. And if CJ can't go, it'll kind of go to Jaheim White has been a guy that's really came on of late. He had averaged over 9 yards a carry in the two games before Oklahoma. I kind of just throw that Oklahoma game out in a sense because West Virginia just played very poor. I mean, that was by far their worst game of the season, offensively, defensively, really the only unit that even showed up was special teams.
So you brought up Jaheim White. What are the biggest differences between C.J. Donaldson and then Jaheim White and also Garrett Green? Garrett Green's another guy that's had some run this year.
Yeah, C.J. Donaldson is more of a bigger physical back. Now, he's got some wiggle and some speed, but he's 240-pound former tight end that had never played running back before he got in college last year. They moved him over there, and he's really kind of fit into that role and really learned how to play the position a lot more this year. He got hurt about midway through last year, but he's learned how to play it better, understands what he's doing. Now, Jaheim White is more what you think of a running back, when you think about it. He's smaller, shifty. If any Cincinnati fans remember the name Avon Coburn at West Virginia, he kind of runs like him with a little bit more speed. He's got some burst, some wiggle, and he can really get in the open field and make things pop. So you got those two, and Justin Johnson works in as well. He's a guy that they're going to give carries to. He's more straight line, kind of cut and go type deal, but he's a dependable option. And Garrett Green's always a threat, as a quarterback. They like to run him a lot when they can. He's battled some injuries, but he has the ability to really break games open with his dual threat ability.
Well, speaking of Garrett Green, what can you tell us about him? Is how, you look at the stats and it's kind of crazy. The guy has 3 interceptions on 210 attempts. So he's a guy that can be efficient. Do you think this is a game where West Virginia tries to lean on the run game, or do they try to get him involved with the struggles that Cincinnati's had in the secondary?
They will throw the football. They've gotten a lot more aggressive early in the year. One of the big things that Garrett struggled with last year when he took over the last 3 games was turnovers. He really struggled with getting the football where it needed to go, making the right decisions. That hasn't been the case this year. He's played a lot better. His biggest issues as a passer has really come down to just fundamental things, getting his body aligned correctly, not falling off certain ways when he's throwing it. And it's keeping his completion percentage down towards 50 as opposed to up towards 60, 65. But a lot of their throws are down the field. They will challenge it. They use the run game to set some of that up, but they've got to loosen the box. West Virginia was playing teams earlier in the year, and there's 12 guys in the box, it seemed like. That's more than you're even allowed, but That's what it felt like. I mean, it just felt like that everybody was at the line of scrimmage. So West Virginia had to open it up a little bit. They've done that really well, started to connect down the field, loosen things up, and it's allowed them to run. They've ran for over 140 yards, 13 straight games. That's leading the NCAA right now. And you don't do that just by lining up and trying to run the ball every play. You got to try to get creative a little bit and get some of those free hitters out of that box.
So you brought up the offensive line a little bit earlier. Tommy Frazier is obviously the face of that line, but it's not just him. That's Cincinnati's going to face an offensive line that's given up less than 1 sack a game. What can you tell us about that unit?
Yeah, that is the engine of the offense. They've played really well. There was a lot of expectations. I don't know if you're ever going to meet expectations when they're that high, just for a group, but I can't find anything to complain about. You look at this year, just group, how far they've come since Neal first arrived. It's different faces, but West Virginia rushed for 57 yards or less 7 times in Neal's first season in 2019. He decided to kind of go young, develop those guys, let them play, and over the last few years, they've really become the strength of the team. They're able to run the ball, they're able to pass protect. They're probably a little bit better in pass protecting than they are running, but overall, it's a solid group. They have experience pretty much across the board. They trust each other, and Zach Frazier has played very, very well at center, while Wyatt Milam is probably going to be an NFL draft pick eventually at left tackle.
Out wide, you guys have Devin Carter as your leading wide receiver. What else can you tell us about that unit?
Yeah, they've been hit or miss at times. I think that they're playing better, down the stretch. They're starting to make more plays, more contested catch situations. Devin Carter is the guy that they brought in to be that alpha from North Carolina State. He's played pretty well for the most part. Hasn't made as many splash plays as you would wanted to, when you first brought him in. But considering the volume and the number of passes West Virginia has thrown, I mean, he's been pretty good. Traylon Ray is a freshman wide receiver. He's made some big plays down the field, starting to kind of find his footing. E.J. Horton is another guy, transfer from Marshall, who's definitely just moves at a different speed than the rest of the wide receiver room, and they have some pretty speedy guys in there. It tells you how fast he is, and he's kind of your guy that you get the football to and let him do some things. Rodney Gallagher, they'll use. He's kind of more in the, I'd say, an extended running back right now.
Mm-hmm.
The way they're using him, they've played more true wide receiver the last couple weeks, but they'll hand the ball off to him, get him in some different situations, and they'll use their tight end in the passing game too. Cole Taylor actually led the team in receptions coming into the Oklahoma game. They'll use him in the red zone. He caught a touchdown against Oklahoma, so he's 6'7". They'll use him down the seam. They'll get in the ball creatively, have some play action. And they really tried to make the tight end the focus of their passing game, and it really has. It's been so far.
So Frazier against Corleone is probably the matchup that everyone's looking forward to. That pays attention to the lines. Just what are your thoughts on what West Virginia tries to do to handle this Cincinnati line that has, Malik Van, Dante Corleone, Jawan Briggs, a very veteran group?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a big challenge for West Virginia. I think this is going to be one of the best defensive lines they've played all year. They have experience. They're not the biggest guys, but they're tough. They play physical. I think West Virginia is going to have to win that battle. I think both these football teams want to do the same thing. They both want to stop the run, and they both want to run the football. And it's really a matter of which one's going to be able to do it more effectively and not beat themselves. That's one of the things, in the opening you mentioned, talking about this West Virginia team. When I think one of the biggest differences this year, as opposed to the last couple, is for the most part, it hasn't been every game, but for the most part, this West Virginia football team hasn't beat themselves. Teams in the penalties, they're taking care of business in the red zone. They're not turning the ball over a lot, but when they do those things, it's beat them. So whatever team is able to run the ball effectively, stop the run, and take care of the football, I think is going to win this game.
Beanie Bishop, he's a guy that Chuck Bednarik, semifinalist. What is the strength of this West Virginia defense?
Up front, I would say that's where they're best at. They roll in 7 to 8 guys. There's not really if you're familiar with Dante Stills or Darius, his brother, that have been at West Virginia the past few years, they don't have that superstar player per se, but they make up for it in the number of guys they can roll in, the guys they trust, and they're as deep as West Virginia's really ever been since they've been part of the Big 12 up front. And I think that's part of what you see over time. It's one of the biggest differences that West Virginia had to deal with when they first joined this league is, your first line of guys, they're fine, but it's the second and third, levels that you really start to see a difference. So they've played well. Lee Koba's kind of the linebacker to watch. He's pretty much do-it-all type. They'll blitz him. He can hold up in coverage. He's a great run stopper, always around the ball, that kind of deal. But in the back end, Beanie Bishop is as good, if not the best transfer addition that West Virginia made this offseason. He was originally at Western Kentucky, played a season at Minnesota, played out of position as a nickel. West Virginia made him a true corner again, and he leads the nation in pass breakups, has 4 interceptions. He could probably have about 8 or 9 interceptions if he could hold on to the ball sometimes. The guy breaks on the ball, makes a great play, and just doesn't haul it in, but he's been great. West Virginia can play him in man coverage. That's where he excels. And Aubrey Burks is the other guy that I would mention, a safety in the back end. He's probably their best cover safety. Had a rough game last week, but again, just throw that out for West Virginia. It was pretty much rough all around, but for the most part, has been very, very good this year.
This is a defense, as you mentioned, gave up 59 points last week, but it had been pretty solid leading up to the Oklahoma game. How do you think they respond coming off a game like that? Is this a coaching staff that is going to challenge them throughout the week?
The one good thing about this West Virginia team that I think is the most encouraging in terms of Neil Brown and maybe his future here or anything else in that regard is when this team has faced adversity this year, they've bounced back strong. The way they lost against Houston, giving that game away with 7 seconds left, that's brutal. That's sometimes a season crippling type of loss. And they had a lead against Oklahoma State the next week in the fourth quarter. And then they imploded there. So, you had a bad stretch in the fourth quarter, and you're thinking, oh, man, this team's got to go to UCF. It's a bad matchup on paper with what they like to do. And West Virginia goes down and beats them up. And they come home and beat BYU up. And then you're starting to feel a bit confident. And you go to Oklahoma and have one of these. So the one thing that has been encouraging is they have shown resiliency. They have been able to bounce back. And at home on a day they're going to recognize legendary coach Don Nehlen, I expect this football team to be ready to go. Whether that's enough to win, that's going to come down to some of the things we talked about earlier. But I do not expect there's going to be any hangovers or anything like that, because they've shown the ability to get past those things earlier this year.
What would have been some of the biggest, I guess, weaknesses of this defense as well as strengths?
At times, coverage. Teams have done a really good job getting them in one-on-one situations at times with some of their safeties. They've struggled to defend, especially, teams with a lot of RPO type tempo, UCF, Oklahoma, that kind of deal. They've struggled, and they really, really, really have issues at times when they can't stop the run. This is a defense that stops the run for the most part, but if they can't, they really get behind the sticks, and it's just hard for them to really recover, because that's what they do. They try to force teams into difficult situations on third down and get off the field. When that happens, this defense has been very good this year. But when teams are able to kind of pop some runs on them, get them in some play action, some RPO situations, that's when they've really had struggles.
Let's moving along to special teams. West Virginia has been a team that's been pretty solid in their kick return coverage. What can you tell us about that unit as far as kicking, punting, all of that stuff?
They're pretty good in most of those areas. Punting, they're a fair catch type punt team. They don't allow much returns, if any at all. I think it was 19 yards or something to that degree going into the Oklahoma game that they've allowed on the season. A lot of fair catches. They get the ball high. They have an Australian punter. I mean, who doesn't anymore? Oliver Straw. He's very effective. He's punted the ball well for the most part this year. Their punt return team, it's not the best, but it has been better than it has in recent years. Preston Fox is the guy that kind of takes the ball there, and
that's all I was going to bring up.
Yeah, he's had some good returns, but at times they've also struggled. But kick off is kind of Jekyll and Hyde. At times they've been very, very good. Put the ball through the back of the end zone, or kind of try to steal those hidden yards a little bit with some of those short kicks. But they've also had it backfire on them, guys getting out of their lane. Houston ran one back against them. BYU also did, but it was called back on a penalty. So for the most part, it's been really good on special teams, but there's been some struggles at times. Their place kicker has been excellent. He's another one of those transfer portal guys that they brought in, and Michael Hayes. He's missed 2 kicks all year. One of them was a 58-yarder that they tried to get it before halftime in a game, and the other one was last week on a bad hold. So he's been very, very reliable. But I think West Virginia's got to avoid giving up any big plays in the special teams and kind of keep things in front of them, which they've been able to do for the most part this year.
So these two teams haven't played since 2012. Is it still a rivalry? Like, is this a game that the fan base is still excited about?
I think it's exciting long term. Now, if you're talking about like this meeting, probably not.
Right.
It's more just a Big 12 game. But you got to look at where West Virginia's been, and really to a degree Cincinnati. West Virginia just hasn't had any regional teams other than non-conference. It's one the thing about a rivalry, and people have asked me, is this a rivalry? You can't manufacture a rivalry.
Right.
You remember the civil conflict a few years back with UConn and Central Florida comes to mind, but it's hard to manufacture one. It's formed over time. I think that this was going in that direction during the Big East days. They had some really good games against each other over that 6-year span. I think that, West Virginia got Cincinnati a few times. Cincinnati got West Virginia a few times. And you're starting to get that. It's kind of like what happened with West Virginia and Louisville. But obviously there's been a decade-plus break. It helps that there's going to be proximity. I kind of wish it was every year. You get the 1-year break coming up in the 4-year cycle.
Right, yeah.
But it's a game that fans can drive to. There's connections there. You're actually going to see Cincinnati fans in real life, as opposed to most of those Big 12 teams. West Virginia fans just don't interact with them for the most part unless they live out that way. Right. So that stuff happens over time. I think that it's definitely a bonus. West Virginia is excited about having another Eastern team. I think eventually the end game, you'd like to have Cincinnati in a league with Pitt and Virginia Tech, and that's a whole nother story, but
right,
with conference realignment. But I think that this is a good start, and it helps to have a team that there is some history with, and they've had some good games against each other before.
So looking at Saturday, a lot of stuff surrounding the game with, honoring former coaches, the team getting up. Just tell fans what to expect the pregame, where are the good spots to go, to tailgate. Just what are some of the things that you would tell Cincinnati fans that they need to experience while they're in Morgantown?
Yeah, hopefully the weather holds up, but it should be a pretty good day. I expect the crowd to be pretty good. They're honoring Don Nealon, legendary coach. That'll be pretty cool. It'll be in between a break, probably in between the first quarter break. But before the game, there's a lot of good sports bars in town if you're into that kind of thing. Great tailgating scene. If you've been to Morgantown before, yeah, a lot of stuff has changed. They've really upgraded the stadium. A lot of things, that Big 12 money, as Cincinnati will come to enjoy, in the coming years as well. But it's a great environment. If you've never been to Morgantown before, I recommend you come check it out. There's horror stories about Morgantown you hear from like certain fan bases when they come. But if you ask anybody in the Big 12, it's been excellent for them, and really West Virginia heading out to those schools. So I don't see there being a lot of, animosity between these two teams. You go to the tailgating scene, get a pepperoni roll, hang out with some people, and have a good time. It should be a really fun matchup. And it's exciting that, like I said, in the next couple of years, you'll get to see this more than once.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because when the two teams were in the Big East together, it was obviously somewhat of a rivalry or trending toward that way. But I think there might be more dislike toward the Pitt fan base than West Virginia. Like, there's, even to this day, the thing is eat shit Pitt. And I mean, I know that's kind of a national thing, but even to this day, Cincinnati fans still do not like Pitt fans. And
I think West Virginia fans would agree with you there.
Oh yeah. So there's some common interest in that one. Yeah, are you going to be at the game Saturday?
Yes, I will be.
All right, we'll have to link up before the game then.
A good deal, man.
All right, Keenan. Well, let everyone know where they can follow your work, and we'll get out of here.
Yeah, you can come check it out, WVSportsdotcom, over on Rivals. We got stuff throughout the week, got stuff from the Cincinnati side, West Virginia side, and a lot of stuff to kind of check it out, just to kind of get a lot of different angles on the game. You can follow me on Twitter at RivalsKeenan if you want to, but appreciate you checking out my work.
All right, Keenan. Well, good luck Saturday, and I look forward to seeing you.
You too, buddy.